Mr Acting Deputy President, I rise to take note of the report entitled Taking Responsibility, Conditions and Circumstances at Australia's Regional Processing Centre in Nauru.
Okay. You seeking leave? You're not seeking leave? The question is that the report presented by Senator Gallacher be moved. Those of you say aye, against no. Go for it. Senator
Thank
Gallacher.
you, Mr Acting Deputy President. Taking responsibility, the title of the report, Conditions and Circumstances at Australia's Regional Processing Centre in Nauru, was tabled on the 31st of August 2015. The committee was established because evidence uncovered in the Moss Review, whilst important, was not complete, and the situation at the Regional Processing Centre in Nauru required further scrutiny. The inquiry received new evidence about the conditions and circumstances in the RPC and provided an avenue for allegations to be raised. The committee received 101 submissions and accepted a certain amount of information on a confidential basis to protect the privacy of individuals. The committee held 4 public hearings in Canberra, and the committee heard that more than $1.3 million is spent each day running the RPC. That is $613,900 per asylum seeker in a 10-month period, or over $2,000 per asylum seeker per day, an extraordinary expenditure of public money. The committee made 15 recommendations, including Australia provides support to the Government of Nauru to process refugee status determinations more quickly. The committee heard that the average duration of the time an asylum seeker will spend in an RPC is 402 days, in a marquee or a tent, depending on whose opinion you take. But either way, in a climate akin to Darwin, 402 days in a mouldy marquee or tent at a cost of $2,000 per day is extremely, an extremely bad spend of money if you look at it from any angle. So we ask for more transparent accounting. The committee is concerned that spending on large projects in Nauru is not undergoing the scrutiny of the Public Works Committee. This Minister, Morrison and Dutton have not complied with the basic transparency and accountabilities under the Public Works Act in expenditure of money in Nauru. Hundreds of millions of dollars have not been subject to the probity and scrutiny of the federal parliament. So the committee also suggests in its report that the Department of Immigration and Border Protection should provide full and disaggregated accounts in its portfolio budget statements and clarify whether public money spent on Nauru is assistance to a foreign government or not. Under questioning, they said, we have taken legal advice that we can do this because it's assistance to a foreign government. Well, very, very shoddy transparency and probity. We're also suggesting, Mr Acting Deputy President, there be an early and open move to an expansion of the open centre model with a view to lower security living arrangements. We have over 800 guards in Nauru and we have less than that in asylum seekers. Money saved through this measure should be invested in providing more humane living arrangements. Alcohol and drug testing of contracted service provider staff. The committee heard that drug testing cannot be undertaken due to the lack of a laboratory. The committee found this to be a poor argument for compromising the safety of asylum seekers and workers in the RPC. If a drug and alcohol policy can work in a regional and remote mine, I'm sure it can work on Nauru. The Australian government continued its commitment to remove children from the regional processing centres wherever possible. Public commitment by the Australian government about the medium to long-term plan for the RPC, including how education will be provided to children. A dedicated and experienced non-government organisation be contracted directly by the Department of Immigration and Border Protection to provide welfare services. and a strengthening of accountability through a full audit of all allegations of sexual abuse, child abuse and other criminal conduct be undertaken by the Department of Immigration and Border Protection in conjunction with the Federal Police. Greater access to the Regional Processing Centre by the Australian Human Rights Commission and the media. It's $8,000 for a visa in Nauru. A media organisation has to put up $8,000, non-refundable, for the opportunity to visit that place and report on things. Not a very transparent or satisfactory arrangement. Greater involvement of the Immigration Ombudsman. And a report to the Australian Parliament by the Minister for Immigration and Border Protection by the end of December 2015, and every 6 months after that sets out all allegations of a criminal nature concerning the Regional Processing Centre and the Department's response to them. The committee is not satisfied there is sufficient accountability and transparency, and recommends that an inquiry be referred to the Legal and Constitutional Affairs References Committee for inquiry and report by the 31st of December 2016, which examines conditions for asylum seekers, accountability mechanisms and whether the contracts deliver value for money. So, Mr Acting Deputy President, that's just a short summation of the recommendations and the work of the committee. Now, I do really sincerely encourage all senators to read the reports, the full reports, both the majority report, the dissenting report by the Coalition and the additional comments by the Greens. This committee was faced with a very difficult challenge, a lot of submissions, a lot of contestability about the evidence. And I want to just go on the record here, Mr Acting Deputy President, and just quote from the dissenting report by the Coalition senators. The government senators require to place the context and conduct of the committee on the record. It is their view the process and principles of due process and procedural fairness have not been adhered to as a result of the majority members of the committee being willing to accept untested and unsubstantiated submissions as fact. Well, I want to say to you, Mr Acting Deputy President, nothing could be further from the truth. If I, as chair of that committee, have accepted unsubstantiated matters as fact, nothing could be further from the truth. If we had, by the weight of evidence, discovered that the regional processing centres were operating well, were operating safely, free of the influence of drugs and alcohol, free of allegations of sexual and physical abuse, that's what the report would have said. It would have drawn from the evidence, and I reject absolutely the contribution from the government senators that we somehow took unsubstantiated evidence, made it a fact and then produced a report. In fact, it is just totally anathema to me personally. I take it as a personal affront to my professionalism as a person or as a senator for South Australia. I do not and will not resolve from the fact evidence is evidence. I do not care if it was critical of Labor government. It has been critical of this incumbent government, and it's drawn from fact and evidence. Fact and evidence. And for someone like Senator Reynolds, and I'll single her out because her conduct throughout the inquiry was totally partisan, totally political and less than objective. I will single her out. Now, I think it was Peter Costello who said there's a thing called a woodchuck. I didn't know what a woodchuck was, but it's a politician who will say and do anything for promotion. And I'll single out Senator Reynolds on that basis, because you could not sit through these hearings, read these submissions and not be physically, and they were really disturbing submissions. The evidence we got was grave. The findings we make are severe and they should be acted upon. And for someone to try and tart that all up as a couple of coalition or Labor Party senators having a go at the government is totally false and wrong. She ought to come into this Parliament, come into this Senate and actually own up that she's taken a party political stance on a very, very important issue and matter of great substance for this Parliament. You listened to the evidence. People came. The department had to be written to answer the question in a more fulsome manner, and they did. One of the major contractors deliberately did not come back in and correct the evidence for a month. For a month, they sat on the lies that they told in the hearing. And for a senator to put her name to a dissenting report and say that we on this side have made it all up is really heinous. And it's something that I will not forget. To have this attack on this committee, and the Secretariat did an absolutely brilliant job of getting all of the best advice we possibly could, from the Clerk of Committees, from the Clerk of the Senate, from the Australian Federal Police, from the Commonwealth Department of Public Prosecutions. We sought to get the best and most professional advice possible and act in the most professional way possible.